Brothers and sisters, have you ever noticed how the world constantly calls for your attention? Voices, opinions, judgments all around, trying to pull you this way and that. And yet, there is a power, quiet power, that many overlook. It is the power of focusing on yourself and holding your tongue. When you stop reacting, when you stop trying to prove, argue, or explain, something remarkable begins to happen. Your mind clears, your heart finds its rhythm, and the small, almost invisible steps you take for yourself begin to shift the world around you. Sometimes the most profound change does not come from words shouted or battles fought, but from the patience to walk quietly, to act deliberately, and to allow your silence to speak volumes. Today, I want to explore with you why focusing on yourself and choosing when to speak or not speak can change everything in ways you never imagined. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where words flew out of your mouth before your mind even had a chance to catch up? Perhaps a comment, a criticism, a moment of frustration, and suddenly you are entangled in conflict, regret following close behind. We live in a world that trains us to react. Every notification, every remark, every glance can provoke us, and we have. In condition to respond instantly, to defend, to justify, to explain ourselves. And yet, my brothers and sisters, there is a strength far greater than immediate reaction, a strength that comes not from the voice, but from the mind and heart in quiet contemplation. That strength is self-reflection. It is the practice of turning inward before we turn outward, of pausing, of observing our own hearts before we try to correct the world around us. When we allow ourselves the space to reflect, we create a pause between stimulus and response. That pause, small though it may seem, is where transformation begins. It is in that brief silence that wisdom rises. When someone provokes us, it is natural to feel a surge of anger, frustration, or indignation. But if we act immediately on that impulse, we may say things that harm relationships, damage reputations, or plant seeds of regret that take years to uproot. By turning inward, by asking ourselves why we feel this way, by questioning our assumptions, our fears, our ego, we begin to reclaim control. We realize that not every comment is an attack, not every disagreement is a battle to be won, and not every frustration requires an immediate response. Self-reflection teaches you as patience. But more importantly, it teaches you as understanding. Understanding begins with awareness. Awareness of our emotions, awareness of our triggers, awareness of the intentions behind our impulses. When we pause to reflect, we begin to see patterns in our reactions. Why does a certain criticism cut so deeply? Why do we feel compelled to respond in anger to a minor slight? Often, the answer is not in the world around us, but within us. Perhaps it is insecurity, a wounded pride, or the weight of unmet expectations. Perhaps it is a fear of appearing weak, or a desire to control what cannot be controlled. Self-reflection asks us to confront these inner truths, not with judgment, not with shame, but with honesty and courage. The beauty of self-reflection is that it is both preventive and transformative. When we pause and reflect before reacting, we prevent harm both to others and to ourselves. How many conflicts could have been avoided if someone had merely taken a moment to breathe, to consider, to see beyond the immediate sting of emotion? How many relationships could be healed if we listened more than we spoke, observed more than we judged, and understood more than we reacted? And as we practice this pause, this inward gaze, we do more than avoid mistakes, we transform our very character. Each moment of reflection strengthens our ability to act with intention rather than impulse, to speak with wisdom rather than anger, and to lead with compassion rather than pride. Self-reflection is not easy, for it demands humility. It requires the courage to admit that we are not always right, that our perceptions are colored by our biases, and that our reactions are often tied to our own unresolved struggles. It requires the patience to sit with discomfort, to observe our inner turbulence without needing to control it immediately. And yet, The rewards of this practice are immense. In self-reflection, we find clarity. We begin to understand the true motives behind our desires and the true sources of our pain. We learn to differentiate between what deserves our attention and what is merely a distraction, between what is worth responding to and what is best left to silence. Consider for a moment the power this creates in daily life. Imagine you are faced with criticism at work or in your family or among friends. The initial instinct may be to defend, to explain, to justify. But if instead you pause and reflect, a subtle shift occurs. You begin to listen not just to the words of others, but to the voice within. You examine whether there is truth in the criticism, or if it is merely a projection of someone else as frustration. You consider whether responding immediately will resolve anything, or if silence, guided by reflection, may serve greater wisdom. In that quiet moment, you regain agency. You no longer react, you choose. And in choosing wisely, you act in a way that preserves dignity, builds understanding, and often diffuses conflict entirely. This principle extends far beyond interpersonal conflicts. It touches every aspect of our lives, from our personal goals to our spiritual journeys, from our habits to our aspirations. Self-reflection allows us to examine our choices, our priorities, and our direction. Are we pursuing what truly matters? Or are we distracted by the noise around us? Are we acting out of ego, fear, or genuine intention? By turning inward, we gain insight into our purpose, we realign our actions with our values, and we cultivate a life guided by meaning rather than impulse. And let us not underestimate the subtle power of reflection in shaping our interactions with others. A person who has mastered the art of self-reflection does not merely avoid conflict, they inspire trust. Others sense the calm, the patience, the thoughtfulness that emerges when one chooses reflection over reaction. They see a presence that is measured, deliberate, and wise. In a world that often values noise and haste, such a presence is rare, and it leaves a lasting impact. Brothers and sisters, the practice of self-reflection is not a single act. It is a lifelong discipline. It requires consistency, patience, and self-compassion. There will be times when we fail, when words escape us, when impulses overtake reflection. But each failure is an opportunity to return to the practice, to strengthen the habit, and to deepen our awareness. Over time, what begins as conscious effort becomes natural. What begins as discipline becomes character. And what begins as quiet reflection transforms the way we live, speak, and interact with the world. So I urge you, in moments of provocation, in moments of frustration, in moments of uncertainty, take a breath, pause, and turn inward. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What is the true source of my emotion? How can I respond with wisdom rather than impulse? In that pause, you will discover a strength far greater than immediate reaction, a strength that protects your heart, preserves your relationships, and cultivates a life of purpose and dignity. Self-reflection over reaction is not merely a technique, it is a way of being. It is a commitment to understanding ourselves, to mastering our impulses, and to engaging with the world from a place of wisdom rather than chaos. And when we embrace this practice fully, we realize a profound truth. The world does not change because we react to it, it changes because we have changed. And the calm, deliberate choices we make ripple outward in ways we may never fully see. There is a quiet strength in silence that many of us overlook because the world celebrates noise. We are told to speak up, to assert ourselves, to make our presence known at every opportunity. And while there is a place for courage in speech, there is an even greater power in restraint. Silence, when used wisely, is not emptiness, it is a shield, a tool, a form of strength that can reshape situations, preserve dignity, and even guide hearts. It is the ability to hold your tongue when the world expects you to speak, to choose reflection over reaction, and to allow your action and your character to carry the weight of your voice. Think of a moment when someone has wronged you, criticized you, or spoken harshly. The instinctive response is often to retaliate, to defend, to explain. And yet, if you pause and remain silent, if you resist the immediate urge to react, something remarkable happens. Silence transforms the situation. It disarms tension. It allows the moment to settle, giving both parties space to breathe and think. Words spoken in haste often wound more deeply than the original offense, but silence held with intention can prevent unnecessary pain and maintain the integrity of both the speaker and the listener. Silence is not passive. It is deliberate. It is not avoidance, nor is it weakness. It is a conscious choice to refrain from speaking until the time is right, until your words will carry meaning rather than clutter. There is wisdom in choosing when to speak, because every word we release carries energy, impact, and consequence. When words are spoken impulsively, they often escalate conflict or create regret. When words are chosen carefully, after reflection and thought, they become instruments of clarity, healing, and influence. Silence then is the space in which this wisdom takes root. Moreover, silence strengthens the mind and heart. When we speak constantly, we scatter our energy in many directions. When we hold our tongue, we conserve energy, focus our thoughts, and refine our intentions. We begin to listen more than we speak, observe more than we judge, and understand more than we react. In this state, our awareness deepens, our judgment becomes clearer, and our presence becomes more commanding, not through loudness, but through the quiet confidence that arises from self-control. People notice this presence, they respect it, they are drawn to it. The strength of silence is not in what others hear, but in what they feel, the calm, composed, and deliberate energy that emanates from someone who has mastered themselves. Silence also allows us to act rather than argue. So often, we mistake speaking for solving. We think that if we explain ourselves, justify our choices, or defend our positions, we are making progress. But true progress often comes from measured action, not endless words. A silent person does not need to shout to be heard. Their impact is felt in the outcomes they create, in the integrity of their conduct, in the way they respond to challenges with patience and wisdom. Silence, therefore, is an amplifier for action. By restraining speech, we allow our deeds to carry more weight, to resonate more deeply, and to inspire change without conflict. There is also a spiritual dimension to silence. It is in quiet moments that the soul speaks most clearly. When the mind is still, when the tongue rests, when the heart is patient, we are able to connect with deeper truths, to listen to guidance, and to recognize what truly matters. In a noisy world, silence is a refuge. It is a sanctuary where reflection, growth, and understanding are nurtured. Those who embrace silence are able to perceive subtle realities, avoid traps of ego and pride, and navigate life with a clarity that is impossible in constant chatter. The strength of silence is seen in history, in stories of great leaders, teachers, and wise individuals. They understood that words alone do not command respect, character, patience, and wisdom do. They knew that silence could diffuse anger, prevent unnecessary conflict, and allow truth to emerge naturally. They understood that often saying nothing is the most powerful statement one can make. Their influence did not depend on the quantity of their words, but on the weight of their presence, the integrity of their choices, and the quiet conviction that guided their actions. And so, brothers and sisters, silence is a form of mastery. Mastery over impulses, mastery over ego, mastery over the desire to always respond, always explain, always assert. It is a discipline that strengthens the soul, preserves relationships, and allows one to navigate life with wisdom and dignity. Every time we resist the urge to react in haste, every time we choose silence over argument, every time we allow our actions to speak louder than our words, we cultivate this inner strength. It is a slow process requiring patience and humility, but its effects are profound. Over time, we notice the subtle shifts: less conflict, greater respect, clearer thinking, and deeper peace. Remember that silence is not emptiness. It is power waiting to be used wisely. In a world that rewards noise and haste, choosing silence is revolutionary. It shows strength, control, and maturity. It protects the heart. sharpens the mind, and magnifies the impact of our words and actions. By embracing silence, we learn to navigate life with dignity, act with wisdom, and influence others, not through forceful speech, but through calm, deliberate, and purposeful presence. Silence does not mean we are invisible, nor does it mean we are weak. It means we are intentional. It means we understand that some battles are won without words. It means we focus on what truly matters and allow our character, patience, and integrity to speak louder than any argument ever could. The world may rush to speak, but the one who masters silence moves through life with grace, power, and an unseen authority that changes everything around them. In the journey of life, we are constantly tempted to compare ourselves to others. We look at their achievements, their possessions, their recognition, and we wonder why we are not there yet. We allow the noise of the world, the praise of some, and the criticism of others to distract us from what truly matters: our own growth, our own progress, our own path. Focusing on personal growth is not selfish, it is essential. It is the conscious decision to invest your energy where it yields the most lasting reward within yourself. When we focus on ourselves, we cultivate skills, values, and strength that no one can take away. We create a foundation so solid that the storms of life cannot shake us. Personal growth begins with awareness. To grow, we must first understand ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, our desires, and our fears. This requires honesty, which is not always easy to achieve. It is far simpler to blame circumstances, to point at others, or to conform to external expectations. But growth demands courage. It demands that we face our own limitations and acknowledge them without shame. It requires that we recognize the patterns in our lives that hold us back, whether it is procrastination, fear of failure, or the need for approval. When we confront these truths, we take the first step toward genuine transformation. Once we have awareness, we must cultivate discipline. Growth is not accidental, it is deliberate. It is the result of consistent effort, of small choices repeated day after day. It is choosing to read when you could scroll endlessly, to pray when your heart is heavy, to learn when the world encourages distraction, and to act when inaction feels easier. Discipline is the engine of growth. Without it, potential remains dormant. Talent is wasted and dreams remain unfulfilled. When we focus on ourselves, we channel our energy into productive habits that strengthen our mind, body, and spirit. These habits are not always glamorous or easy, but they are transformative. Equally important is patience. Growth cannot be rushed because it is not simply about accumulating achievements, it is about becoming a person of integrity, of wisdom, of compassion, and of resilience takes time. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and seasons where progress seems invisible. But every step forward, no matter how small, compounds over time. The tree does not grow overnight, but with consistent sunlight, water, and care, it rises from a seed to a mighty presence. So too with personal growth. Focused effort maintained over time produces results that are both profound and lasting. Another vital aspect of personal growth is the ability to prioritize the right battles. When we focus on ourselves, we begin to discern between what is worthy of our energy and what is merely distraction. We stop trying to please everyone, to correct every injustice, or to react to every opinion. Instead, we dedicate ourselves to improving our own character, strengthening our skills, and cultivating inner peace. This does not mean ignoring the world, rather it means responding to it from a place of readiness and wisdom, rather than from impulse or insecurity. Growth thrives when we direct our attention to what truly matters, not to what the world demands at every passing moment. Personal growth also teaches humility. When we commit to developing ourselves, we recognize that there is always more to learn, always room to improve, always depth to uncover. This awareness keeps us grounded, preventing arrogance and allowing us to approach life with curiosity and gratitude. Growth is a lifelong journey. And those who truly focus on themselves understand that mastery is never complete. Each challenge becomes a lesson, each failure an opportunity, each success a reminder of responsibility. In this way, personal growth shapes not just what we can achieve, but the people we become in. The process. As we focus inward, we also inspire outward. When people see someone dedicated to self-improvement, calm in adversity, disciplined in their habits, and resilient in the face of challenges, they are drawn to that example. Growth is contagious, not because of words, but because of presence. Our actions, our demeanor, and our choices silently encourage others to seek their own betterment. By prioritizing ourselves, not selfishly, but purposefully, we create a ripple effect that elevates those around us. Finally, personal growth requires courage to let go of what does not serve us. We must release toxic habits, unhelpful relationships, limiting beliefs, and fears that tether us to stagnation. Focusing on ourselves sometimes means standing alone, making choices that are unpopular, or embracing discomfort because we understand that the temporary struggle leads to lasting strength. Growth is never without challenge, but it is always transformative. By investing in ourselves, we gain the resilience, clarity, and confidence needed to navigate life with purpose and dignity. When we dedicate ourselves to personal growth, we discover a profound truth. The world changes, not because we attempt to control it, but because we change ourselves. By becoming stronger, wiser, and more disciplined, we influence those around us without force or conflict. We act from a place of calm certainty rather than reactive chaos. We stop seeking validation from others and instead cultivate self-respect, which is far more powerful and enduring. Every effort made to improve oneself, no matter how small, accumulates into a life of impact, fulfillment, and legacy. So, brothers and sisters, focus on yourself. Invest in your mind, your character, your faith, your skills, and your heart. Do not be distracted by the noise, the judgment, or the comparison that surrounds you. Channel your energy into becoming the best version of yourself, for in doing so, you not only elevate your own life, but you create a ripple of inspiration and change that extends far beyond what the eye can see. Personal growth is not a destination, it is a journey, and it is one of the most powerful, transformative choices you can make in life. Discipline of the mind and heart is one of the most transformative yet overlooked practices in life. Many of us think of discipline only in terms of external actions, studying, working, or completing tasks, but the true power of discipline lies in the mastery of our inner world. Our thoughts, emotions, and impulses are constantly at work, shaping our decisions, our words, and ultimately the life we lead. Without control over the mind and heart, even the greatest knowledge or talent can be misdirected, wasted, or even destructive. When we cultivate discipline within, however, we gain freedom, the freedom to choose our responses, the freedom to act with wisdom, and the freedom to live a life aligned with our highest values. The mind is a garden, and discipline is the careful tending of that garden. If we allow every thought, every emotion, every fleeting desire to take root and grow unchecked, our inner landscape becomes chaotic. Anger, envy, anxiety, and impulsiveness sprout rapidly, overshadowing the seeds of patience, focus, and clarity. Discipline is the act of pruning these harmful thoughts, of nurturing constructive ones, and of training the mind to serve rather than dominate. It is not a restriction, it is an empowerment. A disciplined mind does not react to every provocation. It observes, reflects, and then chooses the most beneficial course. In this way, mental discipline is the foundation of emotional stability, spiritual strength, and practical wisdom. The heart, too, requires its own form of discipline. Our feelings can be our greatest source of beauty, compassion, and empathy, but they can also be our undoing if left uncontrolled. Impulsiveness, jealousy, resentment, and excessive attachment can cloud judgment and disturb inner peace. Heart discipline is the conscious cultivation of patience, kindness, forgiveness, and gratitude. It is learning to respond from love and wisdom rather than fear or ego. A disciplined heart tempers the immediate urge to react with thoughtful consideration, understanding that every emotion has its time and place. But not every emotion needs to dictate our actions. It is in this harmony of mind and heart that true character is forged. Discipline of the mind and heart is particularly vital in moments of challenge or conflict. When faced with criticism, provocation, or injustice, the immediate instinct is often to react emotionally, to argue, to defend, to lash out. But those who have cultivated inner discipline respond differently. They pause, they reflect, and they act with intention. Their actions are not impulsive, nor are they detached from humanity. Rather, they are measured, effective, and rooted in principle. In these moments, discipline becomes both a shield and a compass. It protects from harm caused by uncontrolled emotion, and it directs energy toward constructive outcomes rather than destructive ones. Moreover, the discipline of mind and heart strengthens resilience. Life is filled with uncertainties, disappointments, and trials, and the undisciplined person is easily swayed by every challenge. Anger, fear, and frustration overwhelm them. But the person who has trained their mind to remain calm and their heart to remain steady navigates adversity with clarity and purpose. They do not deny the difficulties of life, nor do they suppress their emotions. They acknowledge them, process them, and act in alignment with reason and virtue. In doing so, they transform obstacles into opportunities for growth, disappointment into lessons, and hardship into character-building experiences. This discipline is not developed overnight. It requires consistency, intention, and humility. There will be moments of weakness when impulses win, when emotions overflow, and when patience falters. But each time we recognize these moments and return to the practice, we strengthen the foundation of self-mastery. Small, repeated efforts, pausing before speaking, reflecting before acting, responding with patience instead, frustrate and accumulate over time, shaping a mind that is sharp, a heart that is steady, and a life that is guided by wisdom rather than circumstance. The impact of disciplined mind and heart extends beyond the self. People are drawn to calm, measured, and thoughtful individuals. Such people inspire trust, foster cooperation, and influence without force. Their presence diffuses tension rather than escalates it, and their decisions are guided by principle rather than impulse. Discipline is not only a personal strength, but a beacon for others, demonstrating that control over oneself is more powerful than control over others. Discipline also nurtures purpose. When the mind is focused and the heart is steady, distractions lose their grip and clarity emerges. We begin to see what is truly important, what aligns with our values, and what advances our long-term goals. The constant chatter of comparison, judgment, and fear fades, replaced by intentional action and meaningful direction. With disciplined mind and heart, we live not as victims of circumstance, but as architects of our destiny, shaping our lives through conscious choice rather than reactive drift. Brothers and sisters, cultivating this discipline is a sacred responsibility. It is an act of self-respect, a commitment to integrity, and a path to freedom. It requires vigilance over our thoughts, training of our emotions, and conscious effort to respond rather than react. It is in the small, daily choices how we manage anger, how we respond to criticism, how we nurture patience, how we resist temptation, that this discipline is forged. And over time, it becomes a shield against chaos, a source of inner peace, and a compass guiding every step of life. The true power of discipline of mind and heart is that it changes everything from relationships to work, from personal growth to spiritual life. It allows us to focus, to act intentionally, and to navigate life with wisdom. It transforms reactive chaos into deliberate action, fleeting emotion, into measured response, and ordinary existence into meaningful living. By mastering this discipline, we not only protect ourselves from unnecessary pain and regret, but we also inspire, guide, and elevate those around us. It is, without doubt, one of the most profound keys to a life of purpose, peace, and enduring strength. There is a power in quietness that the world often fails to recognize. In a society that celebrates noise, visibility, and constant assertion, the person who works silently, who leads without spectacle, and who influences without fanfare is often underestimated. Yet the truth is, the quietest actions often create the most profound and lasting impact. Quiet impact is the art of letting your life, your character, and your actions speak louder than words ever could. It is the practice of humility, patience, and deliberate effort, allowing the results of your choices to ripple through the world in ways that are subtle yet transformative. Quiet impact begins with intention. Every small act of discipline, every moment of self-control, every effort toward personal growth carries weight far beyond what we immediately perceive. When we focus on ourselves, invest in our character, and refine our skills without seeking recognition, we are laying the groundwork for influence that does not require proclamation. It is in the unseen hours of dedication, the private moments of reflection, and the steady, consistent pursuit of purpose that quiet impact is cultivated. The world may not notice these efforts at first, but their effect is undeniable over time. One of the greatest lessons of quiet impact is that change does not always announce itself. Many of us desire instant results, immediate recognition, or visible validation. We believe that influence must be loud, and that effectiveness is measured by applause or approval. But true impact is measured differently. It is measured by the lives touched, the subtle shifts in understanding, the examples set, and the inspiration ignited. A kind word spoken in private, a thoughtful action unnoticed by others, a decision made with integrity rather than convenience, these are the seeds of transformation. They do not demand attention, yet their consequences endure far longer than any boast or spectacle. Quiet impact also requires patience. In a world of immediate gratification, it is tempting to seek recognition or reward before the work is complete. But influence built on haste or showmanship is fragile. It fades when attention shifts or circumstances change. Those who understand quiet impact recognize that meaningful change takes time. Like a river carving through stone, their actions are persistent, steady, and deliberate. They continue to invest, to learn, to grow, and to act with purpose, even when no one is watching. And in that persistence, they achieve a depth of influence that no external acknowledgement can provide. Moreover, quiet impact is rooted in integrity. When our actions are guided by principle rather than recognition, they carry authenticity and trustworthiness. People sense this authenticity instinctively. They recognize when someone's character aligns with their actions, when effort is genuine, and when influence is earned rather than demanded. This quiet credibility cannot be manufactured with loud words or ostentatious gestures. It is cultivated over time, in consistency, in honesty, and in the alignment of thought, word, and deed. The person who embraces quiet impact builds a legacy of respect, reliability, and inspiration, simply by living faithfully according to their values. Another dimension of quiet impact is the humility it requires. It is not concerned with appearances, praise, or competition. It is content to act without applause, to serve without recognition, and to persevere without notice. This humility does not diminish influence, rather, it magnifies it. When we act quietly, without attachment to outcomes, we free ourselves from ego-driven distractions and allow our work to speak for itself. The results of our choices emerge naturally, often exceeding what we imagined. Touching lives in ways that are invisible at the moment, but undeniable in the long term. Quiet impact is also about leading by example. People do not always remember what we say, but they observe what we do. The consistent practice of self-reflection, discipline, patience, and integrity has a silent but profound effect on those around us. Our children, colleagues, friends, and even strangers are influenced not by the loudness of our words, but by the steadiness of our presence. In moments of difficulty, when others react impulsively or despair, the person who has cultivated quiet impact remains composed, thoughtful, and principled. Their calm example becomes a guidepost, teaching lessons that words cannot convey. Perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of quiet impact is that it is sustainable. Loud declarations, dramatic gestures, and attention-seeking behaviors require constant maintenance and often falter under pressure. Quiet impact, grounded in inner strength, discipline, and integrity, endures. It is resilient to distraction, immune to fleeting trends, and resistant to the judgment of the crowd. The influence of such a person is lasting, not because it seeks permanence, but because it is rooted in reality, consistency, and genuine care. Brothers and sisters, quiet impact reminds us that we do not need to announce our every effort, to demand acknowledgement, or to compete for attention to change the world. Often, the most transformative forces are those that operate under the radar, whose presence is felt in subtle, profound ways. By focusing on ourselves, by nurturing our character, by acting with intention, patience, and humility, we create ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. These ripples shape hearts, influence minds, and inspire action, quietly transforming the world around us. So, let us embrace the power of quiet impact. Let us act deliberately, speak with thought, and invest in growth and character without expectation of recognition. Let us understand that the greatest influence is often unseen, the deepest. Change often silent, and the most enduring legacy often hidden from immediate view. In this quiet, steadfast way, we realize that true power is not in being heard, but in the strength, consistency, and integrity of our presence. And when we live this way, without boast or fanfare, the world changes not because we shouted, but because we acted consistently and faithfully in a way that changes everything.